please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? You will. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. All right, so before we get to the public comments, I just want to mention one thing that I was going to typically talk about at the end in the notes at the end, but I'll do it first because we maybe still have people's interest. So on Saturday, we had a house fire on Nick Lane in Maynard, and just wanted to, from the Selectman and the town's point of view, thank you to the Maynard and police and fire departments for their quick response in their efforts to fight the fire and secure the area. And also to thank some of the other towns that helped out in the in that instance. So there was the Acton Fire Department, the Stowe Fire Department and their chief Joe Landry, the Concord Fire Department and their assistant chief Tom Judge and their chief Mark Cotreau, and the Sudbury Fire Department, the Professional Ambulance Company, the Boxborough Fire Department, who provided coverage at the Maynard Fire Station during the event, and fire investigators from Maynard, Northborough, Wayland, as well as Steve Carter, who was the chief of the Lincoln Fire Department, and as well as a Maynard resident who helped out at the scene. So just want to thank all those folks for their help in Maynard on Saturday.
Becky wants that for the record.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And now public comments, if we have any. Yes, sir?
Mr. Chairman, as you probably know, maybe you don't, I've been complaining about double poles.
Yes.
The utility company for years, and I recently had our representative aid go to the utilities and get some definitions of what they have on their bills. I don't know whether people really look at their bill or not, they just simply pay it. But if you look at your bill closely, for instance, let's see, this would be,
What bill are you talking about, Vic?
I'm talking about the electric bill from Eversource.
To the town?
No, my personal bills to the ratepayers, okay?
Okay, yeah.
Now, I run a business, and I sell products, and I cannot, in all good conscience, say to a customer, if you want to charge this, you've got to pay me $10 for letting you charge. And yet, every month, on your gas and electric bill, you have a charge on there. It's called a customer charge. It's supposed to be a fixed rate, and I don't believe it is, all right? Now, this particular one I'm looking at here is a customer charge of $8.14. And if you look at the bill, you look at all the transmission, distribution, they'll tell you that they'll come into your home and give you an energy audit. It won't cost you a dime, but you're paying for it every month that you pay your utility bill. And our utility committees at the State House, I don't know how this is figured, but it adds a considerable amount of money to an individual's bill if he's using electric and gas, because they do the same thing with the gas bill. Now, as you know, I've complained about double pole for quite a long time, and in going over what they consider to be their charges, they summarize it here, if I can find it, Mr. Chairman, thanks for your indulgence. For instance, the customer charge, okay, is, they listed here as capital project scheduling list. Recovers costs associated with the company's double pole program, okay? Manhole program and stray voltage program. Now, if we're paying for this every month, the ratepayers are paying for this every month, why do we have to look at all this site pollution with double poles all over town and get a hassle every time somebody approaches a utility to remove a double pole? I mean, if they're charging us for it, they should supply us with the service, okay? And I just can't understand what kind of power the utilities have up there on the hill, but it seems like they exert a lot of influence one way or another, because they manage to put this stuff on their bills, and we as ratepayers accept it. And I just thought it would be a little bit of an education for the ratepayers to take a good look at their bills and perhaps make some comments to either the utility board at the State House or complain to the companies, because we're not getting the service we're paying for. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm
Okay.
sorry it took so long.
No, it's okay. Do you have, is that something we can get a copy of? Not your bill, but the other piece?
You can have this one if you'd like it.
Okay, yeah, we'll just, can you just,
Thank you, Becky.
Just so we could forward, I would
Quite
say we
revealing
could forward that
what they
forward that
charge
to
for.
Aaron. Because I know Aaron has a running list of double poles and is in
Okay.
regular contact with Eversource.
okay,
And in addition to that, back not too many years ago, they had a big meeting with the utilities all across the state. And they came up with a so-called plan, but they're always 2 steps behind, but they're always 1 step ahead as far as adding more double poles. Thank you.
okay. Thank you. Okay, next. Anybody else with any public comments? Okay. Moving on to item 2 is the acceptance of minutes. We have 3 sets of minutes to approve. The first is February 7th, 2017. Move to amend the previously approved minutes of February 7th, 2017, as shown. Second.
Second.
Any comments on that? We're just gonna change them, Becky, to what some of the things we were. All those in favor? Second item is, second minutes are, minutes of March 21st, 2017. And move to accept and approve the meeting minutes of March 21st, 2017, as shown.
Second.
Second. David, thank you. Any comments on the March 21st minutes? All those in favor? Thank you.
Here comes the payroll.
Thank you. The third set of minutes is April 4th, 2017. And I move to accept and approve the meeting minutes of April 4th, 2017, as shown. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Any comments on the April 4th minutes? All those in favor? Okay. Thanks. All right, next is the correspondence. Move to accept and approve correspondences A through F as shown. Do you have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Anyone have any comments on the A through
Yeah, I
F
had one
items?
question, but I guess we'll have to wait for Kevin. Pertaining to the DEP letter, I can get the answer later when Kevin's here, so we can move on.
Okay,
That's the environmental protection SMRP grant, David?
Yeah, there was a comment on there about the availability of grant money relative to solid waste in some fashion, or recycling as well. And I wanted to see if we were in any way eligible and if it's something we were going to pursue.
he'll be back anyway, so just hold, we'll get that question answered when we get to the end in
Yeah.
the minutes.
That's fine.
Notes. Thank you. All right, so, any other discussion about the correspondence items? All those in favor? No? Thank you. This week's consent agenda is, looks like 2 items. Billiards and junk dealer license renewals and a block party. So, move to accept and approve the consent agenda as shown. Do we have a second?
Second, I got a quick question. Becky, you might be able to answer this for Kevin. Didn't we give authority on the block parties directly to Kevin, so it wouldn't even come to us?
I don't know if it's one of-
I have the same recollection, that we have delegated
We
that,
gave some.
because
Was
it's
that
just,
one of
it's an administrative function, and
I thought we had, but,
Remember
and on
who's-
repeat block parties, I thought Kevin had the authority.
is this,
From
new-
this board.
is this new?
No, this
This
is
is a
this has been
repeat.
one
This
that
is
they've
one-
had
this is a-
before, so.
This is,
It's no big deal, it's not a, it's, you know, it's just, we've sort of made a policy and we're already violating.
It's not the first time. We
Thanks.
made the policy, and every other time,
There he is.
every second time it comes up, we do it.
Well, here he is.
Kevin, the question was, there's a special permit for a block party,
Yes.
and David's comment, and my recollection too, was that we authorized you to
You're right.
do those, so,
Yeah,
okay.
that's correct.
We did it for you this time.
That's okay, we're always excited to see them, that way we know where the parties are, we can show up.
All right, now that that's over with, all those in favor?
David usually has a good memory.
You guys in favor?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Who's the second on that, Chris?
David was the second on that one. All right, the next item, number 5, is Celia T's Music Hall, 47th Street, a common victual license and an entertainment license application. Okay. Good evening. Okay, so usually just tell us, introduce yourself to us and tell us who you are, what you're looking to do at 40 Summer Street, then we might have some questions and go on with that.
Celia T's Music Hall is it's a nonprofit theater. We've recently purchased the former Knights of Columbus and refurbished it. What we do is we have selective events over the course of the year, and we give scholarships out to kids to go to music schools such as Berkeley, when the Conservatory of Music, as well as give instruments and provide lessons.
Thank you.
We were formerly housed in Waltham, Mass., and recently bought the building, the Knights of Columbus. We have fundraising events that take place there 2 or 3, 4 times a year, and that would be the purpose of the entertainment license, as well as the food and beverage common victuals license.
I've got a quick question for you, if I may. Are you a Maynard resident? Not that it matters, are you a
I
Maynard?
live in Harvard.
Okay. The reason I ask is, I know that there was an event there right when you first purchased it or something, where there was a group of people, they had a great time. My daughter was there. A great time with the band and everything else that,
It's my daughter's class, the 7th graders.
yeah,
right,
exactly. That's my daughter,
exactly.
too.
Okay.
So I thought you were a Maynard resident, and so,
No, my daughter used to do gymnastics at 10.0
okay.
in Stowe, and
That's
she
where
has
the
a lot of
connection
friends
is.
from Maynard.
Yeah, okay.
So they invited the local
Yeah, and she had a
contingent
blast,
of
so.
people that she knew.
Yeah, a real fun time for
Right.
her. So why, I think it's a great fit for Maynard, because we, as you know, now we have the cultural council, cultural district rather, that came in.
Right, in fact, Tim Hess did my architectural plans,
Did he?
did a great job. yeah.
Excellent. So, was that what drew you here? You know, what brought you to Maynard?
I was tired of driving to Waltham. And I saw the sign go up and just pulled over and bought the building that day, so it was.
Really?
Yeah,
Well, good luck to
worked
you.
with the Knights, they were great guys, sorry to see them leave.
Yep. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
So, all right, so there's no liquor license attached to this? Do you have an intention to seek one at some point, or no?
We're going to come back on May 3rd for a one-day for June 3rd. That's going to be our official grand opening
Okay.
for our first charity event.
Okay.
And we have worked it out with the chief. He's going to provide a firefighter to monitor our events for safety, which we've agreed to.
Okay.
as well as pay them for it, which is fine.
Just as a side note, I've heard that you guys did an excellent job with the renovation in there, so.
Yes,
it's
guys
good to
come
see,
by.
Yeah, definitely I'd like to check it out. I know
Welcome, yeah.
other staff have, so just wanted to make that comment. You've done a nice job in there.
Are you guys going to consider renting it out for functions and everything?
You know, it's funny, after I finished it, I was like, I didn't really want to rent it out. It just, you know, we put so much money and it just came out so nice. I mean, you gotta come and see it. It's almost like, you know, I didn't, at this point, I did originally, but now I'm like, oh, I want to keep it, you know, keep
I just
it in
asked 'cause
pristine condition.
Yeah, I just asked because I know a bunch of people that used to rent it out for different functions, that's all, you know, that type of thing.
We did have a Saturday, have a birthday party there for a 1-year-old girl, so that was for the barber, the guy that's the barber right on Nason, so she had her first birthday there. There were only 20 kids, so, but something like that we would, and we didn't charge them, of course, but.
That's up to you. All right, any other questions, Tim? Jason?
No, you and
David?
David covered it.
All right, so move to accept and approve the application for Diana Dimitri Curtin, doing business as Celia T's Music Hall at 40 Summer Street, Maynard, Mass. Do we have a second?
Second.
So any further conversations, questions? All those in favor?
Thank you.
Good luck.
Good
Thank
luck.
you very much.
Look forward to seeing the place.
Come by anytime.
Mr. Chair, if you would consider taking item 7 before 6, I don't see Mary here. And if she doesn't show, we can speak to her request, but I know the applicant.
Yeah.
Oh,
All right.
oh, I'm sorry.
She was gonna come, we just finished the business alliance meeting.
Okay.
So maybe we could just table it. for
Yeah,
later.
so if we can take that out of,
Nope, take it out of order. We'll do 7 next.
thank you.
All right. You guys
So,
are up.
Mr. Joel Kahn is joining us this evening to present the proposal for Powder Mill Place on the Acton Maynard line. Joel Kahn is with Equity Alliance, is that correct?
That's correct.
Equity Alliance, which is representing the property owner and developer. Turn it over to you, Joel.
Thank you, Kevin. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. As Kevin said, my name is Joel Kahn. I run a company that specializes in providing development consulting services for clients for large projects. I'm here tonight with the landowner, Vincent Cutton, and as well as his attorney, Louis Levine. And we're here tonight to present something you've probably heard rumors about. I know there's been some discussions about the Powder Mill project. There's a lot I could get into. I will try to take my time and make sure that I cover everything. But I want to point out that what we're proposing, ultimately, what we will be doing is submitting an application for a LIP, Local Initiative Program, and under the basis of looking to do a friendly 40B with the town. And so tonight, while I'm here to present you an overview of the project, we are going to be back many times over, both to meet with you as well as if it was to move forward and be approved to the ZBA eventually as well. And each one of those instances, of course, abutters will be notified, the public will be notified, and happy to take and answer questions as they may arise. So let me first orient everybody a little bit to the site, and I do have a couple show and tells, and I only have one time I got to be clunky about turning some pages. So we're here on Route 62 at the Acton Maynard line. It runs diagonally through the parcel. And what you're looking for is at the old mill that sits along the river today, some outbuildings that went along with this mill, as well as some residential lots along the frontage. And that's really all I wanted to point out here so you can get a sense and remember what exactly it looks like. That being said, let me just flip over a little bit and talk about the parcels of land that have been assembled. And so it's actually a number of parcels, both in the Acton as well as the Maynard side, including the mill, and a number of residential lots along this area. And what it's done in the process by assembling these parcels, it's created 12.63 acres of contiguous land, of which approximately 2.1 acres is in Maynard and the balance is in Acton.
How many are in Maynard?
What's that?
How many are in Maynard?
2.18.
2.1?
Now, it's an unusual project. You haven't seen often where a town line runs through diagonal. So as you might imagine, we're here to have discussion with Maynard, who's obviously as important as Acton, and we've been in discussion with Acton as well regarding it. The project that is being proposed, last time I need to flip, is a 254-unit multifamily project under 40B, where 25% of the units would be deemed affordable and registered with the Department of Housing and Community Development in Boston. This is an important part and aspect to it because, you know, that we know, for instance, today Maynard, I believe, is at 8.3% in affordability in the requirement that they achieve 10%. And you have a housing production plan that states that you're looking to bring on 22 new units a year. And so what's important here in understanding this is a little bit is that what we're trying to work through in addition in presenting this project is a way in which both towns can work towards the 10% obligation as well as to create 2 years of safe harbor in the process by putting these units online. The town line defines 2 zoning districts depending on which side you are. On the Acton side, it's a business zone. On the Acton side, it's on a single-family zone.
You mean the Maynard side?
I mean the Maynard side, I apologize. On the Maynard side, it's a single-family zone. The project is to consist of 4 buildings, 3-story over podium on the first building in the front, 4-story over podium in the back, and 5-story over podium in the rear. And what that means is the ground level is in essence enclosed parking. It's made to look like the face of the building. It's going to be done with stonework. Flat roofs where compressors can be hidden above them, and stepped in nicely to try to create some sort of nice architectural presence. Out of the 254 units in total, 81 of them are located in Maynard and the balance in Acton. They are comprised of a combination of both 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, and 3 bedroom units. And to give you a sense of where they are on the Maynard side, there are 7 1-bedroom, 37 2-bedroom, and 5 3-bedroom units. And affordability would be dispersed accordingly. They must be dispersed about product types, must be dispersed throughout the project fairly and evenly. The project is to, in addition to that, is to make it amenity rich. We're sort of appealing to what we refer to as a renter by choice kind of clientele rather than renter by necessity, meaning that we are looking for people who want this particular lifestyle to live in a place where there is enclosed parking, all buildings are elevated, all units are ADA adaptable. There'll be ADA units, of course, made initially, handicap units throughout, 5% of them. But in addition to that, we have proposed a 4,500 square foot clubhouse with a fitness center to include a yoga room. There'll be a big general, common area, what we refer to as a great room. The management office would be configured. There'd be a parcel room for 24/7 parcel access. There'll be a dog washing station. In outside, there'll be a fire pit, a barbecue, a pool, of course enclosed, everything to meet all regulations. And then to take advantage of the fact that we have all this particular frontage on the river, which we view as a tremendous amenity, is to build a trail. We know that each town is looking to take advantage of their waterfront, so that, I don't know where you are in your connective trail, in your network of trails, but we're looking to provide a trail along the entire frontage. We will also have a dog pen outside for people to take advantage of it, a little dog park, as well as additional area for possibly launching kayaks, not to put any formal docks, but certainly make it so that our residents can benefit from the water amenity that's out in front. There will be, in total, enough parking to achieve the minimum, which in all my work in multifamilies and nationals say that you need 1.75 spaces per unit. We will achieve 1.8 with a combination of both surface and enclosed parking. These will all be secured buildings. They will have intercom with camera work for people to see who's at the front door in each of their unit. All doors into the garage, into the clubhouse, into the common areas, like the fitness center for 24/7 access, will all be done through fob connections, so that we can create not only, to create a safe environment for our residents. There'll also be camera work, scattered throughout should anything happen. The fact that we could provide forensic information to the police departments to help service the project. The project is proposed to have 2 curb cuts along Route 62. Utilities will be, of course, there'll be Fios, there'll be Comcast, there'll be National Grid, there'll be gas. Everything will be individually metered. We are proposing that water be serviced from Acton to all units, including Maynard. And we've been in discussion with the Maynard Public Works Department of providing sewer for the entire project, including Acton. What that will do is to generate approximately $900,000 in fees towards the hookup fees for sewer. We will have, in addition to my factoid sheet, approximately another $200,000 in building permit fees. And for the value that's be creating here, we anticipate that the Maynard site alone will generate approximately $250,000 in new tax revenue every year, once constructed. We again, this is again affordable. It's based on 40B regulations that require 25% of our units be deemed affordable and registered to achieve for people earning no more than 80% of the median household income. That's what the target amount is in there. It doesn't mean that we won't take less at times. It just means that that's the maximum we can do. These again, I'm sorry, I was jumping around. We talked about amenities before, and I forgot to tell you about the units themselves. Again, just like the amenities that are common to all, the units themselves will be richly in amenities with granite countertops, with hardwood floors, with carpeting, with in 2 bathrooms for all 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom units, 1 bathroom for the one. And the biggest thing these days is lots of walk-in closets. Everything has walk-in closets. In our society of stuff, we need places for our folks to make sure they can provide adequate storage to them. There is probably many questions you have about this project, and I'm certainly here tonight to answer them. And as a reminder, our goal here is to try to help both towns to try to achieve the affordability requirement as set forth under the 40B regulations. We think it's an excellent location for a project like this. Often you find, if you look at the history of 40Bs, they are very frequently found to border towns, not meant because you're trying to push them off to one corner or another, because it ends up to be areas where zoning changes occur at town lines, where often commercial sector, the roadway network is adaptive, and where there are services, in fact, that support it. And here is no difference. There's supermarkets down the street. It's not far to the town center. You're within a couple miles of school systems. And it's also consistent with other uses you find. There's Deer Run just a little bit far across the street. There is a large multifamily on the Acton side, not too far from the project. And so that mixed with the single families, it creates really what we refer to as smart growth in terms of trying to mix these uses all together. We also think it's an important aspect of this project. It's proximity to mass transit. It's only a couple miles to the train station in Acton, creating, again, another benefit for those who want to live out in the suburbs and in nice communities such as Maynard, but yet still want accessibility possibly into the inner city. So again, there's much I could probably yap on for a long time, but what I'd like to do is open up questions, and in that process be able to address anything that I might have forgotten in my initial presentation.
Okay.
I'll just add, the project's a rental project, and the way the state regulations work is that the number of units are 100% counted towards your housing requirement. Is that if it's a for sale project, only the affordables counted. So if you have a 10-unit, 12-unit affordable for sale project, you get 3 units. If you have a 12-unit rental project, you get all 12, even though 9 of them are not affordable. Joel mentioned that your town was wise enough to develop a housing production plan that calls for 21 units per year. So you get 2 years of safe harbor. Just to expand on that, that means for the 2 years after this is approved, assuming it hypothetically if it's approved this year, for the next 2 years, you can accept 40Bs, but if you don't want to, you don't like the 40B or it's just too complicated or whatever, the state allows you to say, no, we're in safe harbor, we don't have to take it. And lastly, this is, as Joel showed you in the overview, you know, a fairly commercially previously used project, and the net result of this project is reducing the amount of impervious surface. Right now, probably most of it is impervious. We're recharging more water. Environmentally, we're improving the site. And the question was asked in the beginning, and I'll end here, you know, there's 2 acres or so in Maynard and the balance in Acton. But I think if you look at the project, a substantial portion of the Acton part of the property is the riverfront and the setback. A substantial portion of the Acton area is parking lot and the community area. So, you know, building to building, unit to unit, I'm not sitting here with my calculator, but I would tell you it's probably, you know, fairly equal in terms of unit per usable acre or per building acre in the 2 towns. Again, this is all open space. This is really all common area. For you know, if you're here, you can park here, and et cetera. So we're just, and lastly, the 2 houses that are over here, these are houses that are marked in Maynard on the cultural list as being historic. One isn't about the location on this plan. The other one is further down towards the Maynard line. We're going to move the house. We're preserving both houses. And as we've indicated in the previous preliminary meetings, we would leave it up to Maynard to decide how they're to be used. If you want them to be preserved as museums, we preserve them as museums. If you want them to become public open space, we can work to do that. But they're not part of the project per se, but we're going to move them and renovate them. Okay, so they would remain. We're not demolishing them.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's why I bring my wingman with me, because he helps to fill in sometimes the blanks in these presentations.
Can I ask Attorney Levine one question for you? Actually, I might have 2. But the first one is, do you know if, given that we base the affordable units on 80% of the median income, which town do you go by? 80% of Acton's median income or 80% of Maynard's?
It's 80 for the SMA in the area, the metropolitan area.
It's an area thing.
It's an area thing, and it's issued.
Not a town.
No,
Okay.
it's so Acton and Maynard are in the same SMA.
Okay.
I think Concord is in the same SMA, and you know, the SMAs are basically broad areas in the Commonwealth.
Okay.
Whether that makes sense or not, I don't know. That they could administer it by a town basis. It would probably be, you know,
Like regional area.
yeah, it's a regional area.
Then the other question, Attorney Levine, you may not know this because the bylaw that we passed recently on the historical aspect is
Yeah.
very, very new. There's a historical, destructive, whatever.
Demolition delay.
Demolition delay. Does that bylaw allow moving of the?
We would go to the Historic Commission. It prohibits demolition. Okay, I'm not here to argue with the Historic
No,
Commission.
I'm not here to argue
No,
either.
no,
I'm
no,
just
but
saying,
our intent is not to demolish. It's also a delay bylaw as opposed to a prohibitory bylaw. And again, that's something that, you know, people can look at more forensically and deeply, but I think we, as a matter of right, can move it. Other towns have, under comparable projects, moved, you know, historic buildings. But again, we would discuss the matter with the Historic Commission. We want to make them a partner with these buildings because they are historic, so the use of it in some way would be, you know, left up to them.
yeah, and please don't misinterpret my
No,
question.
no, I understand. No, it's a good question.
I have some other questions, but anybody else first?
Go ahead. You have the floor.
All right. Height restrictions. relative to Maynard's bylaws or whatever, 5 stories, whatever, is there any type of thing that would be problematic?
I could answer it in a different way, too, if I could. We have not yet analyzed what waiver requests we would make. Under 40B, we can come in, even if it's not zoned for it, we can ask for waiver requests. And so even if there was a height, we would, restriction, we would come in and ask for a waiver request from that as part of our application.
Okay. And I want to preface all of my questions. Please don't interpret any of them as saying, oh, he's opposed, oh, he's favored, or whatever. I'm just throwing questions out.
They're good questions.
To suggest.
You don't do this all the time,
I
and
get it.
so happy to help.
I appreciate the issue with the waterfront. You may be familiar with, although it pertained itself really to our downtown, we had a report that we refer to lovingly as the Barringer Report that talked about the use of the water and, waterfront properties. And so I think that's a benefit. I know there's a long way to go before this becomes anything, but, I'm really interested in knowing what the overall financial impact would be on our community. I think the schools should have an impact, should have some type of opportunity to ask questions and see what their concerns are so that their concerns are met. Because the schools in Maynard are right now struggling relative to budget, relative to size, and we don't want to have a situation where we're infringing upon them too quickly and whatever. So I hope that the schools have an opportunity to meet with you and speak with you and give some thoughts. I'm also interested eventually, and I know, again, we're early in the process, but traffic impact, that aspect of Route 62, you didn't mention anything about.
No, I didn't. And so as part of that, one of the things that, I don't know if you're aware, there was a joint meeting of some of the departments from both towns, and we met together in Acton one day. And obviously, the questions raised, and at the time, there was a question asked that, could we put together a scope of what our traffic study would cover? We have submitted that to the town and asked them to review that. But the answer is that we are going to do a traffic study along here, and the traffic study will incorporate, Deer Run and what known businesses are there today, and analyze whether or not, in fact, it provides safe turning movements, or whether or not there should be a deceleration lane or anything else done. So that would be part of the process, and prior to our return to the ZBA, that would be done. But right now, we've engaged and shared with Kevin a scope of services surrounding that. I know him and Bill are taking a look at that to provide comment if they feel it's comprehensive to address the questions and of concerns.
Okay, because there is some concern, even without this project, from people who live in Deer Hedge that have problems at certain hours of the day getting onto 62. You add a volume of traffic that's significant, and there's some issues that need to be addressed. But again, early in the process, and again, don't read anything into my questions. I'm just making comments.
And you'd be surprised that apartments don't generate the impacts that sometimes people think, both, schools and traffic, but the answer is that all needs to be discussed and to make sure that people understand what that means to them.
And then also the impact overall, you talk about, fees that we might get, whatever, but we're already the first responders here in Maynard to the bigger project that you referenced up in Concord. It's actually right on the Acton-Concord line, the Muse project. We basically, by default, are the first responders because of our proximity to that location versus the other communities. Now here's another large project that our EMTs and firefighters and police become basically the first responders to, and it adds costs to our community relative to that first response. So that's something that when we as a community begin to discuss what we want to do, we have to start thinking about that and the impact financially for us, because of the, we're now going to have people responding to this. We're going to have school issues, as I mentioned. We're going to have fire and police as well. And there are other concerns I have relative to our infrastructure issues that you said we're going to be the benefactor of providing the sewer. And that's wonderful, but, our sewer pipes might need to be looked at as relative to the...
As a matter of fact, what we agreed to in conversation with the Public Works, we didn't bring our engineer here tonight because it was not that kind of discussion, but one of the exercises that we go through is we're going to camera work down the pipes and see, in fact, if there are issues, where those issues are, and how those might be addressed. So the answer is that's been discussed already and will be explored further as this process advances.
Okay, it hasn't been discussed with us, so that's...
No, I understand
Or nor
that.
with the public, so...
But just with the Public Works Department.
We've,
Okay.
just, two issues. We had a meeting, in Acton for Acton residents, last week. And, there was a captain from the, I believe a captain from the Acton, Police Department there. And, Acton and the Acton Fire Department are, committed to, service this project, with Maynard, and not expecting Maynard to service it, because it's as much in Acton or more in Acton than Maynard. And with respect to sewer, we know, you have a question?
I'm starting to say, come on, Attorney Levine, the Acton Fire Department is, the closest fire department is 2.5 miles away. Maynard is 1.5 miles.
Well, in terms of fire department, these buildings are going to be totally sprinkled. I think fire, it's really,
EMTs is really the bigger thing.
again, in South Acton, which is only a couple miles away, is the ambulance. So I don't want to argue with
And
that.
I'm not arguing either, I'm just, pointing these things out.
We understand, it's complicated questions to both towns, and, that's why we start the discussions.
That's right. Thank you.
And in terms of the sewer, we understand that in our conversations with the DPW, that there's going to have to be a study, which we're willing to pay for, obviously, as to the condition of the pipes. But right now, again, in general terms, the DPW feels that their system needs to be upgraded anyway. So, we're going to wind up paying for it, and so the upgrade is not going to only benefit us, but it's going to benefit everyone back on the line. So we understand that.
Okay.
All right. I would also tell you that I did the permitting in Acton and Westford. There's a project, Avalon, which I think is a total of over 400.
390 units.
90 units. I think 80 of them are in Westford. The remaining are in Acton. Actually, in that situation, you can't get to the Westford site without driving miles through Littleton and Acton to get to the location. It's a totally different thing. But I did speak to the captain when at the meeting last week, and the number of calls they have, are relatively into the project are not that significant. I think he said 113 for the year, and then when there's something in a greater manner, they turn it over to Westford in terms of if it's court stuff or further investigation. So, but again, I think the proximity and the availability of getting here, as opposed to that other kind of project where you just can't get there. It's all, you have to go literally miles through Littleton and then into Acton and then back into Acton. So, but, we're more than happy to meet with, police and fire and discuss this in a more definitive way.
One last question, if I may. How often have you worked on projects like this that do have, you mentioned the one in Littleton and Westford, apparently, that do have a split of the community going right down the middle?
Again, it's Acton and Westford.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, and the split was the front portion and the entrance of the project was in Acton. The back of the project was in Westford. The treatment plant, the private treatment plant, was in Westford. We did the project that adjoins it is in Littleton, but it's right on the Acton line. I've done a number of projects. This is the only one where I've had a split. The Concord Muse is somewhat of a split project, although it's all in Concord. Acton got involved because part of the road, shifted into Acton. So I guess you can say that's a, by the way.
But I'm talking specifically residential splits.
Again, go ahead.
Town lines running through the buildings have been done in this state, but it's rare to see them done exactly this way.
Okay.
But, and it does, we understand, create questions and discussions over, how inspections are done. And that was part of our joint discussion and we feel that there is still much to be talked about, and town officials would need to get together to have those discussions, how that could be worked out. But we think that those are all ones that could be addressed through further discussions of both towns' administrative offices.
I was speaking to the Acton building inspector. He knows your building inspector fairly well, and he didn't see a procedural problem between the two towns inspecting it, so, and that's just in his perspective.
All right.
We'll
Again,
go to
just-
the unusual part, and we'll agree with you there. It's
Again,
unusual.
just throwing comments out and concerns out that I think I'll hear from residents. But
Absolutely.
thank you.
Kim?
Whoever ends up living in these units, do they have a choice as to which school they get to go to, or does it depend on what line they're on, seeing as they're such in close proximity to each other?
What's proposed right now are the units that are in Maynard, the kids will go to Maynard, and then the people who live in Acton will go to Acton, so.
I kind of foresee an issue with that. People are going to be fighting for one side of the town, maybe leaving one side, a little more empty than most if they have kids. But also, how do you decide who pays for what? Because our water and sewer rates, they're going up. Acton's is probably changing too. How do you decide who's paying for what?
Well, first off, you should know that, we're big on conservation, and you'll see in ultimately the LIP application, which is just a week or two away from being submitted, is that one of the things we talk about is, what kind of conscience we have towards it. But one of the ways we promote conservation is through submetering. So, the story I always tell is it involved a project down in Tallahassee, Florida, and it had 1 meter for 420 units. As soon as we put sub-meters on where everybody was responsible for their own sewer and water based on their usage, the water bills went down 60%. And so we see the same issue here, that, it's gonna be sub-metering in here. Sub-metering is not a town responsibility. The town will just have a singular meter to us. We will then be responsible to do the sub-metering. And it's permitted under mass laws to allow that. And I'm involved in a couple other large projects throughout the state, and we've followed the same similar protocol, and it works nicely.
You mentioned, actually, real quick, just, I believe I missed it, what was the total number of units?
254, of which 81 are in Maynard.
Okay. Obviously, I reiterate some of David's comments about, school-age children are going to be a very important, something very important that the town's going to want to know. Do you have a wastewater total that you've engaged the town with?
Yes,
Yes.
And what was that number?
I don't know, but we have it.
Okay.
Stan Tech is reviewing that. Bruce Ringwald
Ringwall.
is
yes.
their engineer, and he's supplied them, Aaron and Stan Tech, with the information.
I assume we've
to do
also
that analysis.
had Veolia
Yeah,
looking in on that?
correct.
Okay.
And they're also gauging it against other projects that are either in the pipeline that we know about, including Parker Street, and what the capacity levels will be.
Yeah, from a flow generation standpoint, this is straightforward.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I just wanted to know
But
we
yeah,
had
we-
that,
we-
we had that number.
Yes.
That number's
We
been.
have that number. It's not one of those factoids that I have in the back of my hand.
That's
No, it's,
okay. Then it's not a problem. I don't think anybody really wants to talk about it tonight anyway, but, this is probably going to be a question that you guys aren't going to answer because I'm sure you haven't laid things out yet. Will the units have additional non-bedroom rooms?
There is a one-bedroom with a one-bedroom den. There is that option, and and I believe that's the only hybrid, if I can remember off the top of my head, in our configuration. So, we've done market studies out to see what's in demand today, and it's become the new thing for those who want to have the little desk and office kind of set aside to it. So we've added that to the mix. But
Okay.
they are not bedrooms, because in the clear way that is, there will be no doors. So they're not intended to be extra bedrooms snuck into it.
Okay, and that's something I thought you may come across questions about that.
Yeah,
That's
I've
come
had
up
that
here.
in other communities as well, and that's usually how the discussion goes, is that they're open cases, they're no bedrooms, there's no walk-in closets in those rooms, they're intended to be just what they are, which is a little den area off of the living room.
Okay. The address of the facility will be Acton, Maynard, split by unit?
I would suggest
building?
that's a discussion that we'll have ultimately between how the buildings will be labeled. There are obviously clear-cut 2 buildings that are on the Acton side, and then the other 2 are sort of the line runs in between. So we haven't had that discussion enough to figure out how they would be addressed.
Okay. And you had mentioned building,
No pun intended.
Yes, no pun intended.
You had mentioned that the buildings along the, sort of the diagonal along the river are 5 stories.
There are 5 stories over podium parking, 4-story over podium parking here, and 3-story over podium parking here. And that's the 3-story elevation that you're looking at
That's a
there.
3-story.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And the additional ones are just literally one more story that goes up on top of that. And again, the ground floor there is the same elevation as the parking lot, and it'll be enclosed parking.
Joel, what's the
High-speed
height
door,
elevation?
fob access. What's that?
What's the height elevation on the 3-story?
And the 3-story is
50 feet 8 inches, according to your plan?
51 feet, if I have my numbers correctly.
Okay.
And what was the, do we have a height restriction?
It's
What
40,
is it?
40 in industrial,
40 feet.
70s HCI.
And one of the things that causes it to grow a little bit, just so you're aware, and again, it doesn't go to the issue of whether or not we're in compliance with the regulations, is one of the things today about modern apartment development is you try to go tall ceilings. So these are all proposed as 9-foot ceilings. It makes a huge difference if you walk into an older project in terms of how it feels size-wise for the resident. Another thing I didn't mention before, though, that I do want to take a moment, if I could, and focus on is who are our renters? And so, you know, I've heard comment and questions, well, you have extra bedrooms for school children. Well, that's true. There is a risk that there could be some school children that are added to it. If there's a preference that they be in, we'll say Acton, then so be it. Then they're not going to, you know, they'll shift there. But what we found really is that these apartment complexes don't generate the number of kids that one fears just because of the bedroom. So typically in a 2-bedroom, they often are young couples who have their first child, and with the aspiration often that when they are ready to have their second or that child gets older, that they in fact, you know, look to move into housing or larger types of projects. And so again, a discussion that we will have to have with the school board and happy to engage with. But I don't think if you look at other projects in town, you'll find that they won't really generate the amount that one thinks.
Okay. Actually, if I could just get one clarification on
Sure.
that. So you mentioned this is the 3-story, so this is building A out near Powder Mill Road.
Right.
And so the 3-story building, and granted, obviously you guys have some features on the building that are raising the height. So we're looking at 51 feet for a 3-story building. So we're looking at nearly 60 plus feet for a 4-story building. And
57.
57, okay, and you are 15 feet off the property line? Is that about
That's
That'd be
approximately, that's correct.
fairly accurate?
That's correct.
Okay.
2-foot setback off that side. That's correct. And partly what happens in these roof systems is that, you know, we want to move the compressors off the ground. We think it's better designed to get them off the ground. If you've gone into older, you know, apartment projects and they're all across the ground, they ultimately get beat up. So we're going to a flat roof. With that, we'll have a parapet so that, you know, the elevation of the facade raises up above the actual ceiling line, the roof line of the building, and so that everything is hidden behind it. The same intent is here as well, too.
Okay. I think that generally covers my question. I will give you one warning. We have had some challenges with roof-mounted HVAC equipment in town, so that will definitely come up.
Well, I'm happy to deal with that, and let me tell you, when you have 254 proposed heating and ventilating systems, it means a lot to management, to the owner, to make sure that we create systems that are energy efficient and that are easy to manage over time. I've done this before in several other projects out there, and again, with proper preventative maintenance and proper design, that they've worked well for improving the aesthetics of the site and keeping them off the ground.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so, I mean, obviously, a lot of questions from everybody that we all have, all along similar lines. One of the things I'd like to see if you could provide us at some point, just kind of you kind of threw a lot of numbers out there, and, you know, Jason was asking how many units, how many are in Maynard, and, you know, the acreage and stuff. Can you kind of just, at some point when you get a chance, just send Kevin a summary of those numbers so we kind of look at it and, you know,
Sure.
at least we get the the numbers piece, so when we start to talk about it and answer questions about it, we have that in front of us, so we have a reference point for those numbers.
I'll do two things for that. One is there'll be the cheat sheet, which I'll
Yeah,
send, which
exactly.
gives you the summary of the factoids. And the other part will be is that when you ultimately get the LIP application, what we've done there to make it easier to understand is that, in a normal LIP, you write total of units, and it would be whatever the units are in the town. And here, we've given a total, and then we break it down per town as well, too. And so all of the information going to both towns is identical, and that you can also see exactly what's going on as it relates to one side versus the other. So you're going to find it to be, rather than an 18-page application, it'll make it a 24-page application, but it'll be comprehensive in nature.
Okay, yeah, just the cheat sheet would help a lot when we start
Sure.
to kick it around ourselves. The other thing is, do you have a timeline?
Sure.
Hopeful timeline, or?
Sure. Our goals are as follows. In a couple of weeks, you're going to receive the LIP application itself. Then it comes back to you all to have your public hearing and to move forward. Assuming, and I'm just going to think optimistically for a minute, so I'm going to lay it out based on that. Assuming that that's a 45-day period of time that transpires, and you turn around and were to support the project, which we are hopeful you will, because that makes it the difference between doing a 40B straight to the ZBA and a friendly 40B is the dialogue and exchange in the way in which we work together. We then need to submit down to DHCD our application for site eligibility. They come back, and again, we'll probably look to you and open up again for public comment from their standpoint, and they'll probably take 60-plus days to process through and come back with their site eligibility. Assuming we reach that point, and I will get to what those dates mean in a second, we then will apply to the zoning board and need to go through that process before ultimately we come to, boards like historic and conservation and stuff, which really are the trail end of the project. It is our hope, and we believe it would be beneficial to the town if this all could be done between now and the end of the year, so that if approved, that would mean that at that point you have safe harbor, and it would start and cover you for the years 2018 and 2019. That's our hope. We believe that's a doable schedule. Now, of course, that depends on many things, and again, we have two towns to do simultaneously to this, and so it assumes both towns are working in conjunction at somewhat the same pace. It may not work out that way, but that's our hope. If we were to achieve that, our hope would be to break ground in spring of next year. The total first building would be online about 11 months later. Total project time would be about 18 months. So that sometime by the end of 19, maybe early part of 20, the project would be complete. We're finding now the market still for apartments is robust. You hear stories all the time about, oh, there's too much here and too much there, and that's true. If you were in the Seaport District of Boston, I would tell you that some of the landowners there are not having fun. Though all the national firms that I deal with on the management side tell me it's still positive absorption. It's just that they flooded when they put tall towers, tall buildings on. They flood a lot of units at one time, and so it's taking a while for those to be absorbed. But all the studies still say there's a shortage of rental housing in the state. Rental housing is an important component of any town's housing stock because they tend to help to create a larger workforce. And obviously, the larger workforce becomes attractive for companies looking to relocate. So they're all interrelated to each other. And our studies indicate this area still is very healthy. We are, of course, with such a major investment of close to $50 million in round numbers. Trust me, I advising the client looking at the numbers and having to digest it all. We take great moments of pause to make sure that we're not jumping down some rabbit hole and getting ourselves into trouble. And so that question has been asked already a dozen plus times, and will be asked probably 100 times between now and the time we ever get to it. And even then, you're never done worrying about it until you're stabilized, and even then, you worry about new things after that.
100's a little light on the guesstimate, by the way.
Yeah, I understand.
You might get the same question 100 times in one night.
Well, I'm
But,
fortunate because I have a client who's active and participating in the process. I've done it where I've had clients who never even show up, who label all the responsibility, and that makes me even more nutsy, because now I'm worrying about it, because they're not involved. But we have an active owner here.
Yeah, so I mean, we have one selectman who's not here tonight, who I'm sure will have his own set of questions. I'll have my own once we start to move a little more forward and we start to have a better idea of exactly what we're looking at as a town and as a group. But, cheat sheet would be great, and then we'll figure out
Yeah.
Kevin's help.
Sounds good. Joel, can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Is there any plans for you guys to do or seek any demo permits prior to approval? Will you be doing any demo out on the site?
Not that I'm aware of now, no. We're going to hold status quo for the moment, and honestly, it's better, we don't want to disturb or change anything in the back until we're ready to proceed, because right now there's, we'll call it by today's standard, an archaic drainage system that doesn't, deal with the infiltration systems as they currently have.
So
So
that
we
would-
want to wait and...
That would happen simultaneously with
Simultaneously.
breaking ground type of
Yes,
thing?
absolutely. That would be the first part of the process, would be, you do the demolition, stabilize the site,
Right.
get a lot of, site work itself would be for 3 or 4 months before you'd really start to get going on a
There's
foundation.
no concerns with the 21E or?
No, it's no question that it's a mill use, it's got its issues, but there's no issue that the people tell us is problematic.
Okay.
It just requires, treating it respectfully as we
Sure.
go through the process.
Thank you.
And as part of the application, there will be a summary of 21E as to what's been, the studies that have been done, that
Okay.
is being assembled as well. I'm telling you, that LIP application has lots of information associated with it.
Light reading.
Exactly right. It was light writing too, trust me.
You're not conspiring with Bill Nemser, are you?
Uh,
To increase our reading?
Well, don't mean to, and that's why I'm happy to give the cheat sheets and,
Okay, good.
and happy to answer questions as many times as necessary.
Okay. Well, we appreciate your presentation, your time, and yes, Vic,
Yeah, I'd like to make one comment before you go.
as long as it's not negative.
Make
As
it-
long as it's not negative.
Well, I don't
That's
think
my
it's
job.
negative. I think it's very pertinent.
Okay.
because I hear the gentleman saying that he's got 254 units. The majority of them be over the town line in Acton, and we're supposed to supply the sewage. Disposal of the sewage, and yet, just up on the other side of that development, there is a relatively new sand trickler system, sewerage system that the town of Acton built not too many years ago, and I don't hear this gentleman mention that at all. And my opinion would be, if it's Acton sewage, they've got a plant over there, let them treat their sewage. We're already having enough problems with treatment and EPA regulations and stuff. Every time you turn around, we're spending more money on our treatment plant. But I don't hear, and I'm sure, sir, that you've been around long enough to know, you must have investigated that that plant is up there at the junction of Adams and the High Street, Old High Street, okay?
We're aware of it,
Yeah.
and our discussions, and again, I'll direct, our discussions are that Acton also provide the water as their contribution, including water into the Maynard units as well, too. So, we've tried to look at balance to it and understand that in both communities, in order to get them to make their contribution towards the utility, fulfilling the utility requirements of the project, that both will receive, substantial fees and potential infrastructure improvements in order to accomplish that.
I think it's a point well taken.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
It's a point well taken, but we're a long way from showing those nitty-gritty details, both towns and yourself, so
Absolutely.
we could get there. Yes, Ron?
If I could make an observation, hopefully you don't think it's negative, but the tallest zoning in Maynard right now is 70 feet. If I do some simple arithmetic, the 5-story units are gonna be 75 feet, 76 feet, 74 feet, just an observation. And on Powder Mill Road right now, I don't think there's a building in Maynard more than 20 or 25 feet. These are 57 replacing 15, 18-foot historical buildings. So just an
You want to
observation.
say we're sharp enough to put the tall ones in the back and Acton, right?
Yeah, I don't know what Acton's.
So far, the 4 and the 5 are in the back, but anyway,
57
I understand what you're saying, but we'll
We'll
that's, we'll time will tell where we go.
Yeah, and I think from Maynard's perspective, we have to think down the road as well as, and I realize this is a 40B, so there's probably other issues that come in where you have the right to do certain things that you might not have the right to do elsewhere. But we have other developments that might be coming in and other neighborhoods that might be concerned. If we start giving away 70 feet at this location, and then, it becomes a big deal and causes problems down the road, so.
I mean, with very few exceptions, this is the first that anyone in Maynard is actually seeing these drawings and receiving this information from Joel and the rest of this group. So, I mean, we've got several books of volumes of information and questions asked based on other things that we've got going on and have had going on in the past. So certainly, we're a long way from finishing with our questions and the public's questions. There will be, there'll be public hearings and there'll be all the rest of those things. So we've got a ways to go, but, we do appreciate the initial walkthrough and look forward to seeing the other information in the LIP and everything else and seeing where we go.
And we'll get to know each other, I'm sure, extremely well over the time, and I'll try to keep my bad humor out of the hearings as best I can.
It's okay. We've got bad humor of our own.
Fair enough, then maybe we'll be able to.
So, I mean, good luck with everything. I mean, I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions. I'm sure there'll be a lot of screaming and yelling and consternation with different people and different groups, but, hopefully we'll work together and through it peacefully and see where we go.
I appreciate that, and appreciate you guys taking time out of, I know you had a busy agenda tonight,
But
so.
the big thing is gonna be, obviously we talk, just so you know, we talk nonstop every year, all through the year about our overtaxed infrastructure as far as sewer and water goes, and now we're gonna tax that a little more. There are huge concerns, despite, even a small number of children, what that effect will have on the schools and, the school budgets and the rest of that stuff. So those are two of the major concerns. David's concerned about public safety and whatnot, despite what your attorney says about the chief from Acton or the captain from Acton, they're gonna come from Roach Brothers to get to this spot. They're gonna be a long time coming. If it's 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you're battling traffic on 27 and school buses and the rest. The only place that people are gonna come realistically to provide immediate service is gonna be from right down there at Summer Street. So those type of concerns are, I understand that you guys have had the discussions, but to the point that David made, don't kid us, because we know where those things are gonna come from right now. And the other thing, it's very gracious of you guys, through the generosity of your hearts, to come here and do this project for Acton and Maynard, but some of us realize there's a profit motive behind it too, so we gotta throttle that piece back a little bit and understand that it's about money that's driving the project, not the goodness of one person's heart.
Oh, there's no question about it. I mean,
I know, I just want to suggest it.
Yeah.
That's how we started, at the goodness of our heart. We're gonna build this project by the banks of the lovely Assabet, when really the profit is the goal, not the loveliness of the mill.
But there's no question, to attract this type of capital, you have to provide a return to the investor.
I understand.
But under 40B, there's also a cap on the amount that somebody could take out in a given year too. The formula says that no more than 10% based on your one's equity can be had. If not, then it goes back to the municipalities.
I understand all that.
40B has its limitations as well too, so.
I know, but
So
let's not kid ourselves as to what drives the project,
Well,
That's all.
if it didn't make money, I agree, we wouldn't be standing here tonight.
Absolutely.
So-
Well, we do appreciate the
Not good humor or
presentation.
bad humor.
That's bad humor, it's bad humor.
Exactly, understand.
It's bad humor, but and I'm not being a wise guy, but we have had, since I've been sitting on this board, and it's not been a few years, we've had not one single developer has come in and suggested that they were doing anything but blessing us with their presence to build a project.
Well, you
So it
won't,
just gets to be a little bit funny.
you won't get that from us. We're a little more humble than that
No,
to,
you're plenty humble. I don't have a problem with it, but I'm just throwing that out there just because if I don't, I'm just remissing what I'm supposed to be doing. But we look forward to it, and, once we get those things with Kevin and Bill and Aaron and the DPW and those guys, we'll see where it goes.
sounds like a plan. Again, thank you all very much.
Thanks for coming up.
Thank you, Joe.
All right, back to Mary. Mary was late. Mary, you got moved to number, come on.
There's Joel.
All right, gentlemen.
Celtics started 9 minutes ago.
I think I had plenty of time.
All right.
Sit down, I'll get out of your way.
Stand, do a dance, what?
Stand.
Whatever you like.
Yeah.
All right, so it's your nickel.
All right, so
See a little,
Kevin, do we ever find out anything about the two, we have two things. The one that David proposed for the seniors.
Yeah.
And Mary had a similar proposal about the schools, which is voluntary donations on the tax bill, and she had a couple examples for us last time. Do you have anything further?
yeah, we reviewed it, based on the approval of the elderly disabled voluntary fund. I don't see there being any major concern with adding something else. As I had said in the prior meeting, if we could, limit them to capture it into, one additional page, that would be ideal. But, through working with Cheryl Kane, the Treasurer Collector's Office, we can come up with something that I think would be sufficient.
Something similar to like the half sheet that I gave you, or?
Right.
Something, yeah, okay.
Exactly. The question becomes, as we talk about this, is what do we want to do it and add it into? If it goes, if it goes out with, say, an excise tax bill, it's about 8,000, pieces of parcel that'll go out, which is a bigger group and a bigger audience, potentially, that could donate. If it were to just go with real estate tax bills, you have 50% of those paying it through an escrow account. May look at it, may not, but, typically aren't making a payment to the town. So they would have to take another step where they actually would. Plus, it only goes to, 4,000 parcels versus.
Yeah, that was a good point, because I hadn't realized that many people
Versus
paid.
the excise. So those are just, I think if the board is in favor of, at least allowing us to pursue the conversation of what it would look like and how to get it out there, then we can take that next step. But I don't think, it would create any additional hardship on, the town as to do it. The additional sheet stuffing of an envelope and producing it is a cost that we're already going to bear with the adoption of the elderly disabled aid fund that we took on. So if we can do that within the same form, set it up, which I'm confident we can. I don't see any reason why not.
Is there any way to have it included on the bill itself? Like I mentioned, the Belmont bill actually had as part of the bill, so
Yeah.
there's not additional labor involved in stuffing anything into an envelope. It's actually printed on the bill.
If it's one simple thing, probably. Cheryl didn't think it would be easy, because the problem is you have to write a separate check, because there's no way for them to, you can't just add an additional $25 to your tax bill. It has to be done and handled separately. So we're still kind of early in that stage.
Yeah.
It's going to depend on, is what, 30 scholarships on something like that? I mean, it's going to be defined on how, if we break those out, or if we say we just did it to the high school.
We actually
fund.
have a line item that's Maynard High School Scholarship generic, so that's where we would
It's
have
got a
it.
$10 seed.
Right, the one, well, it's a little higher now.
Yeah. Okay, that,
Well,
well, that
$500
makes
now,
things
actually, thanks for generous
simpler.
donation. Yeah.
So if we, if we were able to do it that way, and then we can put it into that one account, that would be ideal. So, we'll make it work, whatever is most cost effective, and, we have the ability to get the word out.
That would be really
If the
great.
board is, open to adding this as an additional option, we'll figure out how to do it.
The adoption of it is the first step, and then we can talk about the logistics after.
Yeah, we just put it on the next agenda as an item and vote it on the next one, because we don't have it listed as a vote for now. But I mean, I don't think that anyone objects. I have a question though. So we, to David's point is, some of the bills you see have several different checkoffs, and several different places you can go. What are the, why wouldn't you add if you're going down this road, so you have the scholarship and you have the seniors, what about a line for the schools? What if you want to donate additional revenue to the schools? Those type of things. Are those things legal? Are they allowed?
Typically, it would be to a dedicated fund. Any revenue that came in, that's why there's typically
I know in some places
scholarship
you
or-
can donate towards like an athletic department or a program.
Right, that's a little bit different. Where you can capture it for programs for like a boosters, thing like that, but no way of capturing that as far as a general fund payment that says, oh, it's an extra $10 a year I want you to add to the school budget.
Yeah.
You know, but I get what you're saying, it's usually for a cause. We can look at what else may be there to do, you know.
Yeah, the one that I saw that had the check boxes was Belmont, and they had the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, they
Right.
had the High School Scholarship Fund, they had the senior discount, or the senior thing. I think there were 5 different boxes that they had on.
Was that a real estate bill?
It was on, I don't remember if it was real estate or excise. but-
Majority of the ones we've seen are a separate form completely. They get included as an additional piece of paper with the bill.
And that certainly was the way they did it in Leominster.
Leominster has
Yeah.
a dedicated
And
form.
the 3 examples that I had too were a separate, just a separate
6 that are on my
form.
desk are all individual, separate sheets. Maybe it stands out more. Some of those too is when you put it on, say, just a bill, if we could do that, there's no explanation. The other ones where it's a single form, there's a narrative as to, okay, well, what is a disabled elderly, tax relief donation?
Yeah.
You have a little more flexibility as you can, with that, but other than Belmont, I haven't seen.
Yeah,
any
and I just saw that one,
Yeah.
you know,
If the thought was to, kind of only pursue this through excise, tax bill mailings, then we're only talking about once a year. If the thought was to add it into real estate, we're talking obviously quarterly, but the excise tax one won't be till, by February at this point.
But we'd
so.
reach more people, because
It's
if you do
double.
the 2 real estate, then
Yeah.
you're still reaching the same 4,000
Correct.
houses versus once a year times 8,000. I think I'd rather try it that way.
And I've had several conversations, like I said, that, they know that the property tax went up because it went up on their mortgage payment, escrow payment. They don't even, because they're not writing a check to it, they don't really pay attention to it or care. And that's about half of the payment that we receive for real estate tax. So I think all along, everybody owes, the excise, and I think we get a bigger bang for that.
Okay. Let me just put it on the next agenda and, vote. Right?
You just like to have me keep coming back.
You don't have to come back for that.
I'm only,
You
no,
don't
I
have to come back
want
for
to.
that.
Yeah, just in
This
case.
is enough of your time. We can just,
Oh, that's okay.
we know
I'm
where-
happy
we
to
know
do
where
it
we're
as
at. We
well.
just have to put it on and just add it as a vote item, because we don't have it as a vote item tonight,
Okay.
or an action item, so we'll take an action on it the next time we meet, and then it'll be done.
And could we have a date of when it would go into effect? I don't know when the excise
Yeah, I would-
tax bills.
It would be for the next,
December,
yeah,
next January.
correct.
there'd have to be some discussion about how the whole process works even, so, certainly a goal should be the next excise tax cycle, but, there has to, I don't think it's wise to put a specific date on it if we haven't prepared it properly and haven't gotten it, so.
And we might be.
Sooner rather than later is sort
Yeah,
of.
in terms of, and I'm speaking out of school here, no pun intended, but we might be able to get, if you were looking for manpower to stuff the envelopes, National Honor Society,
Service
students
hours.
have to do service hours, and I thought of that, so, if that's a challenge.
It's a nice gesture. I don't know that we'll go there, but okay. Thank you.
And I could
It creates a lot.
oversee.
We've done that,
Right.
but
Yeah,
thank you.
no, give the kids more credit. All right, you good?
I think that's it.
Thank
I
you very
believe-
much,
believe-
appreciate it.
Thanks, Mary.
All right.
What are we at now? Tim. Tim's up.
We're looking at, number 8, a one-day liquor license, and it's moved to accept and approve the one-day liquor license and request to use the Basin Municipal Lot for barbecue to celebrate the town of Maynard receiving the Commonwealth's recognition of Maynard's Assabet Village Cultural District. Do you have a second?
Second?
Now we'll have some discussion. Mr. Hess,
Good evening.
good evening. You were gonna get up to your 31-day licenses pretty quick.
Maybe it's might be three.
I think it's 3.
Have you recovered from your fall yet?
Listen, you know I wasn't gonna throw that at you. After all that time spent warning everyone else. But anyways. yeah, we
I'm
al-
sorry, Tim.
It's all right.
We already publicly trumpeted that cross.
Election's coming up.
So I mean, I don't know, I'll ask the typical questions, and then if anyone else has the others, that we can go there. I mean, we're gonna have it, it's gonna be roped off, we're gonna have tips, bartenders, we're gonna have the license, the boozer's gonna be one day brought back, the next type of thing. We're all set with the chief and everyone's good with that?
No, unfortunately. I'm a little bit premature tonight in that I have not yet had a chance to review with the police chief or the fire chief. Those things seem certainly always important, but in this case a little more important because we're seeking to be not in exactly the same spot where we were in September, but in a slightly different spot.
Right, so before we were in the corner, correct?
Right. Yep.
All right, so now we're looking to go.
Well, where we're hoping to be is,
Yeah, not to cut Tim off, but they are aware of the proposal. I've reviewed it. We haven't sat back with Tim to kind of discuss it, and I know his proposal is different, but the first preference would be to have it be with that wall, only because it limits the circulation and potential, conflicts if people are still going to be driving and access. But I'll let you present what you're thinking. But at least my conversations with both DPW and with the police chief, that was their first preference, unless we came up with a good plan otherwise, because they're concerned about the circulation. And similar to the way you had it with the water ball event, it created a nice sort of dedicated barrier, at least on the two sides.
it's a nice out-of-the-way spot over there.
Not to cut you off, but
Yep.
go ahead.
No, I appreciate it. So our sense is that we'd be, the kind of location we used between the walls last time, we're happy to think of that as a fallback spot. And we recognize that there's a little more complication to this spot that I'm going to explain to you. And, for that reason, I guess the strategy of what I'm trying to explain is a little, do I go for the easy fallback? I'm hopeful that we have enough time to try to work through the details and resolve the concerns about this other spot. But I'm not certain that we will. If I can...
Yeah.
So, just for context, if you guys are all oriented, there's Memorial Park in the former deck. So for the party in September, we were in here, which of course has the advantages of preserving all kinds of circulation, almost all of the circulation in and around the basin today. As I think you guys all know, one of the reasons that we are having the party there, why we had the party there in September is, keep it down here, is to kind of call attention in a positive light and shine a kind of, just shine a happier light on this space that we think has enormous potential to help just sort of be the connective tissue and help sort of foster some economic development in town, in the center. We talk about it on the council and in the district, we talk about this as the epicenter of the most walkable municipality in metropolitan Boston, because we believe that's true. So for that reason, we're interested in occupying this space really right in the middle. And it's, our interest in that is as simple as the fact that when one stands out there, it feels more like the center of the basin, and there's a kind of just a more attractive position of enclosure between, a small stand of pretty mature trees here to the north and a smaller stand of mature trees to the south. Enclosure by really the only two enterprises or going concerns on the basin that have faces on the basin. Everything else is sort of turns its back and puts its dumpster out there. But as we know, El Hupil and Babaco's face this space. So there's a way in which there's already a kind of, I'll say like a civic quality to the way that space feels. For that reason, we think that's got a kind of special heart of the basin, heart of Maynard set of sensibilities.
What are you gonna use to, if you're in the preferred site, your
Yeah.
preferred site, how do you contain all four sides? Like, I mean, in the other one, you were really only worried about three sides. How do you contain that?
Yeah, well, it's even
In
worse
that
than that.
area.
We're really only worried about two sides.
Right.
Before.
So how do we, what's the plan for that? And
Yeah.
is that, or is that something, that's a little premature and that we haven't talked to the two chiefs yet?
I think it is premature. I'm happy to answer the question.
Yeah.
In the sense of where are we headed? What
Where are we
hoping
going?
to
Yeah.
achieve? My sense is that we can preserve circulation through this west side passage along that parking space. Certainly, this stuff could remain open, flanking Middlesex Bank is what I'm pointing to. This little chute between Memorial Park and Citizens can stay open and around there. From a sort of DPW and fire and safety standpoint, my sense is that they want to be certain that they could get to anything that was happening in here. And I would think that we could probably preserve the opportunity to get, any size vehicle that can get down there now around. What we'd really be talking about is blocking this lane sort of from here to here. So my sense is from a sort of emergency vehicle circulation, that's probably not all that tricky. The tougher thing is we now have a bigger perimeter to kind of contain and to some extent control.
Yeah, well, that's
We probably have to shut down Naylor Court too.
that's my concern, just looking at it from, what you have drawn, and then, your description of maintaining the flow. I guess I'm concerned in that picture, adults are adults, they ought to be aware enough to know where they're going, but like, kids and stuff, if that flow of traffic is still going through there, how are you containing the people within that circle that you have drawn?
Well, I think, so far our thinking is only this advanced, and that is to say not very far advanced, but the things that worked for our two open sides at the water ball party were to have a tent, the kind of longest length of a tent cover whatever it was, 40 or 50 feet there. We borrowed some planters from Alma and Alonzo at El Huipil, and then we just kind of strung some rope at the balance of our exposed areas. I think we got, maybe Aaron loaned us a couple of sawhorses from the DPW. So, we'd have certainly, if those things were still valid, we'd need more of them because we'd have a greater distance to cover. But like I said, I was hoping to have a chance to chat with the police and fire chief and haven't yet done that.
Yeah.
So,
Would you be overly disappointed if we were to say, just so that really you can move on with planning, that there's too much of, unknowns with that middle area and just go to where you were with water ball? Actually, I think you could probably expand it out to make it a bigger space, because I think there might be more people for a cookout.
I think you're gonna need more people. To David's, that exact point was what I was thinking. You'll need more people.
Yeah.
I think you'll see more people. I was even, when we first started looking at your picture, I was thinking we would close off the parking lot at the end from the theater side, that piece, and then,
Yep.
that one length, and then close that off so there's no one coming in, so there is no vehicle traffic in the area where you are.
Whole wall
Yeah.
area
Close that off. I mean,
closed.
obviously, we typically go with the chief's recommendations and everything. But to Dave, I would suggest, just based on the feedback that, some of us may have gotten, personally have gotten about the kind of excitement, although a lot of people don't understand what we're talking about when we talk about the Assabet Village cultural designation, but people excited about what's going on, and you've got, all the artists and the people that, have kind of contributed to that coming to fruition
Yeah.
plus the people from Art Space, all those people that would potentially want to be involved, I think you would have a a lot larger function than that center would hold, I would think,
Well, I think, let me answer it this way. I think our interest in that spot isn't diminished because of the complexity of trying to resolve the issues. And it's equally true that, I think one of the things that we found, that I personally have found very compelling about the lens that the whole district initiative kind of helps us to see the town through is it's all about playing the long game. And, we didn't have the water ball in the basin because that was the coolest thing we could think of, but it's the coolest thing that you can achieve on $1,000 and a month's planning, right? So we're really interested in every time we have a party in there, have it a little more like the kind of vision we have for the ultimate condition down there, 5, 10, 15 years down the road, we hope that each of those restaurants has now got a facade and an outdoor dining area out there. It's not 14 dumpsters, but it's one community dumpster, one joint dumpster, and 14 restaurants. So would we be overly disappointed? No, I think you're going to continue to hear us talk about why we want to focus attention in the particular spots that we want to focus it. And, ultimately, I don't think our success is going to be based on, or the success of the district is going to be based on, how much planning we can cram into like the next 5 weeks, right? I guess if there was a both and situation where we could leave with an agreement to use the walled space and a contingency to be open to resolving issues over the next couple of weeks, should those happen to the satisfaction of the chiefs and yourselves to reconsider use of the other space, that I would say that would be ideal for me.
Just one, I'm only my opinion, but everyone else has their own opinion that they can certainly share as well. But I would think that, we clearly, as a group, we support, what you guys are doing down there and trying to do. And we certainly don't think this is an instance where anybody here wouldn't support the idea. We have time, so we could always just, kind of table the motion and put it back in play in 2 weeks and see where we are with it, and that gives us plenty of time to still get it done. I certainly am not opposed to the idea. I just want to make sure we have, the two chiefs on board and Aaron's got the ability to do what he has to do to help.
Yeah.
And if we have that, and then everyone can speak for themselves, but I would just want to,
Well, I think from our side, I think I'd say also that we recognize that it's a lot to bite off, and we don't want to fall on our faces again. You're supposed to laugh. It's a laugh.
I got it.
he got it.
So if it can't be done well and safely, we're going to prefer to kind of retreat into the other spot anyway. My point is,
so they're the experts on those things,
Yeah.
Not the 5 of us or the 4 of us tonight, but I'm certainly in 100% support of the idea. Once we get, once those things are just.
And the reason I suggested what I did
Done.
was I figured it was easier to move on. And that
Yeah.
way, you don't have to worry about coordinating with the chiefs and getting everybody's okay and having maps drawn and everything else and spending time. You can start planning as
Yeah.
opposed to. That was my thought. But I don't care in the grand scheme, as long as it's safe and as long as the chief is okay, or both chiefs are okay with where you're at. To me, I think it's the event that's more important, and where it's at. I know that location, the basin itself is the key.
Right.
But, I think you can work that out. But I was hoping, I thought my proposal would just move it along so that,
well, I appreciate that, yeah. I guess I'm a greedy guy. I'm hoping there's some way to kind of walk away with something in my back pocket and try to improve it in 2 weeks. Is that not sensible?
No, that's fine.
No,
I think it's a far stretch.
I'm pretty sure that you can.
As I've talked to both the police chief, I haven't spoken to the fire chief, but the police chief and the director of public works
I think it's a stretch.
are very concerned about that space and are adamant that it go where it was
Yeah.
the prior year.
Okay.
Doesn't mean you can't bedazzle them with some proposal.
Well, here's the
You
other
might have
thing.
to upgrade you
I
might have to upgrade the sketch.
know he's absolutely,
You've seen better graphics.
Well,
as soon as he got the email and the plan, he called me and this isn't gonna work.
Yeah, okay. So I appreciate
But
that input,
just-
and why don't we say this? We'll reserve that uphill fight for a time when we've got a little more running room.
Yeah.
You know, I think all you guys know that one of our recipients this year is planning a bigger music festival in the basin in August, and he wants to do it right there. So that'll give us more time to kind of work out the logistics and try to make the safety and security work out. So for the barbecue, which is next month, not 4 months from now, why don't we just say we'll go back into the...
I think you should expand the area, though.
Okay.
I think we should. I think we should.
I think we're gonna
expand-
need the space.
I think we should expand the area for the space, and just to close off that end of the parking lot just makes it that much safer.
It's,
I mean,
Close the
that's-
entry in from the basin and then on the
Yeah.
other side.
Yeah.
so for the night, it's one way, basically, coming in from Summer Street, because you can't go through. So you block that off, and then same thing, if you come in from Main Street, you have to go out onto Nason, and that's it.
yeah,
Correct.
yeah. So,
Can I bring up one thing? Because I think this is going to come up, and I mean, I'm already seeing it with some folks that I'm talking to downtown, you know, looking for 2 spaces temporarily, and some of their neighbors, you know, losing their minds over it. Tim, so you're just on the blue circle, so you're looking at the center double bay, plus any of the parking in front of Il Hupil and the former Aubuchon property?
What happened in those 11 spaces?
11, well, my quick count was 38 spaces versus 12 spaces in the corner
Yes.
when we did it before. So, and this is not entirely directed at you guys, just in general and for the board. You're talking about, you know, a Saturday evening, Saturday night
Yep.
on this event. So you're talking about a Saturday evening, and just what Tim has shown is 38 spaces. If you start closing off the other entrances, you're now taking out all the spaces along the side of Bank of America. So you're probably up in the vicinity of, and I know, Tim, at this point, you probably have them all memorized and know exactly which ones are which, but, you know, I see that as a potential challenge, aside from the potential issue with the Chiefs or DPW, that you're pulling 40 or 50 spaces out of downtown on a Saturday night. Have you, and I would say this for anybody, have you guys talked to your neighbors and the business, MBA and?
Great question. Nope, the answer is no.
Okay.
No.
And again, partially loaded, Tim, because again, I'm hearing from a couple of people on looking for 1 or 2 or 3 spots temporarily, and having some of our folks downtown, again, literally losing their minds over the potential of loss of 3 spots on a Tuesday versus 38 spots on a Saturday.
Delicate minds.
And again, I understand what you're going for. I was going to offer, you know, if we could maybe shift things around a little bit. I see where you're going. You're looking for that space directly. I mean, I don't know if it makes it any easier for you guys, as far as, you know, you've already sort of offered to go back into that other corner. I'm okay with, you know, if you guys want to spend 2 weeks figuring out if you can move it around. I'm certainly in favor if you want to go back. I was at the water ball. I think that worked out well. Even if you expanded that a little bit, you know, you're mostly in lane. You know, you're taking up lanes and not a lot of parking. You know, I can tell you right now, I'll support that, whether it be tonight or 2 weeks from tonight,
Right.
whatever it is. If you know, I'll leave it up to you and the other board members to decide which way you want to go with it. But that would be the one caution I have on the center. So I think you're going to chew up a lot. Again, not that this isn't a worthwhile event.
Yeah.
Like I said, I just see, I don't want to see the inevitable backlash because, well, now this event took away all my parking and now nobody can come to my restaurant tonight.
Yeah.
You know, it'll be it's a balancing act like everything, but it's something I want to bring up.
Well, I appreciate that. Wow. I think given that think, given the time constraints, it would probably be unwise for us to spend so much of the next 4.5, 5 weeks trying to address those concerns. Like I said, we'll, regard tonight as our start for addressing those concerns for the August event. That'll give us more time to address the neighbors via the MBA and otherwise, and the chief's concerns, and resolve as much as we can. And if we aren't able to figure it out for August, we'll try it again next year and get better.
But I think you've got, at least my sense is, you've got universal approval of the concept and of what you're doing. It's that, just the nitty-gritty of where.
Agreed, yep.
Well, unfortunately, I mean, where your circle is, it's the heart of the area, which is a great place for it. But the other part is, to Jason's point, it kind of robs a huge amount of parking in a parking-starved area, which I guess, for the movie theater, if we close that and we could get some signage, temporary signage for like to direct people to the library parking lot. There's not a lot of action there on a Saturday night, but I guess we have to work through those issues. But I support, I support the idea either way. I would prefer to see it in the corner, just for the same reasons you're saying, because you might run into a lot of log jams getting there in the next couple of weeks. But it'd be nice to be able to do something in the center there sometime where you could get just close the whole thing down and make it like the an Oktoberfest in that, in that area,
because that guy's, and I forget his name, but the one who won the award,
Seth. Yeah.
Seth. That event just sounds like it's energy. It's so we can start thinking about that. But.
I'm certainly willing to, I think everybody's willing to vote on it in the area where the water ball was, and then work towards getting the other things done going forward. Certainly makes sense.
I'm certainly okay with that.
Tim, opinions?
I like that idea.
Okay, so all in favor of that idea? Okay. See you on the 20th.
You got another issue, don't you, on the agenda?
Yeah, I included them there.
What's that? The
Next
beep?
item.
The enhancement funds?
Yeah.
But he doesn't, we're just looking for,
Well, he's part of that conversation.
are we looking to give somebody something, or just looking to, okay, for you to give somebody something?
Correct. So this, if I could, Mr. Chair, the Downtown Enhancement Funds, the Cultural District support, we kind of breached this conversation, I think probably back in December, maybe it was, in anticipation of some things that were going to be coming down the pipeline, i.e. the mural conversation we had along the artwork, and anticipation of ultimately receiving cultural designation. At that time, we were an applicant and hopeful. We now know that we since have been approved. And so continuing conversations, and Tim and I have met on this, and we've had multiple conversations about kind of how do we proceed and keep the the momentum and the initiatives and ideas that the Cultural Council is working on, in particular around the Cultural District support. And as we did talk prior about the utilization of some of those enhancement funds, specific as a way of utilizing it towards the creative economy and the cultural stuff and the economic development, kind of creativity that comes out of that. Which is where you have that motion before you to authorize the town administrator to review and approve those expenditures from the Downtown Enhancement Fund to allow the Maynard Cultural Council and the Assabet Village Cultural District for annual events and initiatives. And that's why we're back kind of before as an official formal agenda item, as a continuation of the kind of conversation we had prior to anticipating that we would get to something like this now. Tim, I don't know if you wanted to kind of put you on there as a co-agenda item sponsor, but if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah.
It's good timing, as you said, with the recent designation, the planned event for May, and already planning out the calendar. They already have identified some areas that are going to be good opportunities.
I hope it's helpful to say these things, that I'd say over the last couple of years, the council has been kind of inspired and very strongly motivated by the district initiative that was sort of sparked by some others, some folks that are no longer on the council and some others that are sitting in seats like yours and elsewhere around the town. I think all of us on the council at that time were just saw the kind of the way that the state's district initiative finds relationships between the kind of artistic efforts and just people and initiatives that happen here and have for many, many years, and kind of causes those things to be understood and edited and distilled and channeled into a kind of clarification of the identity of a place in a way that helps businesses create relationships with each other, helps artists find a kind of economic foothold in a place. As we then kind of looked at our own role with, the kind of core mission as the state defines it for the local cultural councils is to receive a small pile of money from the state, and you guys may know we receive $4,700 a year from the state, and it's our job to sort of prompt applications, approve some, and fund some of the projects. In light of the kind of opportunity and excitement that the district initiative created, we looked back at our last couple of years and said, we have funded sort of narrow focus events for small groups of people in the recent past. And for some of the more exciting things that we've funded for broader audiences, much of the money that we're required to give away every year ends up going to prosperous, well-funded, well-established institutions in our neighboring prosperous towns. How crazy is that? It's ridiculous. So we made it a goal in a very distinct way. We want to spend more of our grant money in town. Not that there's a lot of it, but we don't want to send any of it out of town. To the extent that some of it goes to folks who live out of town, we want the programming to happen in town. We want it to happen in a way that's exposed to more people, has the opportunity to kind of spark other things, not for 7 people in a small room, but in a way that can kind of multiply and magnify itself. So it's because we wanted to have more applications, we wanted to get better applications and spend more money in town, we began this process of trying to call some attention to our program. Last spring, for the first time, we had an award ceremony that was intended to bring a little recognition to our recipients. Many of them were surprised by that and hadn't had that before, but I think it was fun and went pretty well. At the beginning of the current grant cycle, then, the water ball party was the kickoff for the grant cycle. We used the opportunity to use the theme water ball to try and not just introduce that, hey, this is a period of time in which we're going to be receiving applications, but we want the applicants to think in a particular way about a particular set of subject matter so that when the applications come in, when the projects are proposed, one could begin to see a relationship between some of these events. And just going offhand, I can tell you that we've got, among our recipients, we have this River Mill and Moon Festival at which a local artist actually wrote a series of original songs that are about Maynard that will take place at a festival in Maynard. I guess all of this is sort of a not very efficient way of saying that as we've thought about the kind of core of what our mission is as a council, we've begun to see that through the lens of the district and tried to aim our council grants at things that will be are in pursuit of the goals of the district. You know, at the core of our approach is to recognize that you know, cultural district is ultimately about the reciprocity between the events that comprise culture and the district, which is a place. When we call attention to a place and treat it in such a way to host an event, you know, a good event encourages the place to become better. A good place allows and invites better events. Sorry, I'm rambling a little bit. So the places that we regard as critical and sort of essential special places in the district that make Maynard Maynard, the basin, the river, the mill pond, and the spaces between the buildings, the outdoor spaces at the mill. So in addition to those four key places, the idea of connecting them, connectivity, and gateways, the way that folks, what they see and how they feel as they enter and kind of cross a threshold into town. So the stuff we've got planned for this year, you've heard me talk just a minute ago about the barbecue in the basin. We've got the River Mill and Moon Festival coming up in August. In September and October, we will have this kind of connectivity gateway / mural project, which we see as at least a two-part project to both produce a work of art on the Murphy and Snyder building, which is a gateway, and to help produce a forum in which there's a conversation about the relative values and virtues of public art. Why do we have art? Does it matter? That kind of thing. And we're hopeful that that program in particular will prompt you know, maybe one or two or three other mural projects throughout town over the next few years and start to create a kind of continuity and connectivity between murals and among, to kind of help stitch together a kind of fabric of several murals in town. So, you know, I said before, you know, we're very interested in the long game. We're not in a big hurry. We want to do some things that we haven't done before, and the things that we've done before, we want to do them just a little bit better than we did last time. Ultimately, it's about recognizing that we have, what makes Maynard special is comprised of a few things that can be identified. You know, we want to try to improve, from our standpoint, places and events. So we've been doing that, we think, with some good success, really on a shoestring. And to the extent that there may be opportunities to reinforce the shoestring, we think we can have a little bit more success. So,
Thanks, Tim.
a better speaker could have done that in a minute and a half.
Very eloquent.
So,
Doesn't get to the point of the whole issue.
you're looking for
You-
Kevin to give you some
We're looking at- so-
authority to use some money that he has to
To
downtown.
approve, basically, essentially to approve specific requests that are geared towards that, as we talked about before, without having to, we're not talking about a one-day permit type of thing. We're talking about the actual funds to help support the initiatives, which is the conversation ultimately we've had of the entire use of the downtown enhancement funds.
More that we want to give up. The concern I have, and more of it, is that we give up the control of the BEEP dollars, but you also give up the control of the knowledge of the BEEP dollars, and that's more the concern for me, is that, you know, knowing exactly where those funds are going to.
Well, this is 10% of the amount of money we're talking about, the BEEP applications, which is coming, I mean, this isn't BEEP money, this is downtown enhancement money. So the BEEP money is just one program that uses the downtown enhancement funds. So those BEEP applications are still planning to You know, we've had so many of them.
I mean, I understand.
Still planning to come before the board. I mean, ultimately,
It's kind of a question, it's kind of a question of semantics at that point. It's just the more we, you know,
I guess the bigger part of it is, so we're not here at 9 o'clock at night looking for the board to approve $700 for an initiative that ultimately is, you know, in line with the use of the funds.
I haven't seen Tim ask for $700 yet. Or anybody else for that matter, but you know, it's a whole different issue.
But you're not seeing the money that Kevin would be able to allocate, you're not seeing that as additional grant money, but rather event money.
Right.
That's correct.
Yeah.
To support the events of which you'll know about.
Which, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've used downtown enhancement funds, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think we've used them for other concerts in the past that we.
Sip and stroll.
Yeah, I mean, it's.
Other concert events, you know. Yeah.
So I think that it connects, and I get Chris's concern about, you know, the control of those funds, but that's why we have these citizens committees that can actually have some empowerment. You empower that committee, and suddenly it gains a lot more importance, and that cultural district is going to drive the economy downtown. That's what I believe. So I think being able to empower the cultural council is vitally important.
Which is what we talked about back in December.
Yeah.
Is giving them that kind of
Yeah.
empowerment, and these initiatives are exactly that.
I don't think we talked about giving them a checkbook.
No, that's why I'm approving it. Much like the other, you know what I mean? That was the
I know
difference.
what you're saying,
Is-
I'm not, you're not
It wasn't,
losing me with that, but.
we talked about that too, is, you know, it was in essence a checkbook to give to, whether it's the cultural council or somebody else that could start spending, but it's just the authorization to approve it. Still is a checks and balance with the town versus a, you know, an appointed council.
Would there still be, in theory, still be a requirement of approval from Kevin after, or does it, do you perceive it as complete authority?
No, I think they would
Dependent authority.
come to my office.
They would
with
come to you
requests.
with their idea and you would approve
Yeah.
it? Similar to any other idea that we have now?
Correct. Which is how the motion is written.
Yeah. I'm on board. I'm with you, Kevin.
Boy, we better take notes on that, that's fresh. That's something new. He agrees
I'll
with you.
take that one.
Mark it down, folks. I mean,
if it
we read the motion and vote, let's see what happens. I don't wanna waste all night worrying about it. It's $20,000, which isn't small change, it's, you know, something I think as a board, we ought to know what's going on with that type of money, and what's going on with the cultural council and the things that go on down there. When we start to lose track of the money, we lose track of the knowledge as well, so. Move to authorize the town administrator to review and approve expenditure of funds from the Downtown Enhancement Fund to support the Maynard Cultural Council and Assabet Village Cultural District in annual events and initiatives not to exceed $20,000 per fiscal year. Do you have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
One question for Kevin. You just mentioned something about $20,000 being 10%. You're talking about the entire enhancement fund, but it's only being replenished at $40,000 a year, correct?
Correct.
So it's 50% of the annual. Will go to this, and there was also the previous discussion also was that I think the Economic Development Council be an overseeing body.
Of the BEEP program, and this would be an overseeing body of the cultural, of
Okay.
the other half of it, which was the conversation, because the EDC already ultimately approves and vets applications for the BEEP that comes before them, and then that's submitted to, to the board, which we've had 2 or 3.
Cool. Thank you.
But who knows, maybe that enhancement fund will get replenished 100,000 one year. Yeah, that's just historically where we've been at, but this year there's none, particularly because there's been nothing spent out of it either. That's not, I think, it's a valid point, but it's not meant to serve as a stabilization account. We want to invest in these things, initiatives, and into the downtown,
Well, that's the
enhancement
reason
of
it was,
downtown.
that was the reason it was instituted in the first place,
Right.
was to drive some,
Yeah, it started with facade improvement grants from old grants previous, and we did 3 of those.
and we took,
And then it went dormant for 4 years, and then we did 2 or 3 more. And now, I get it, okay.
Okay. Tim? What's nope mean?
Waiting for the
No, no comments? Okay. All those in favor? All those opposed? Tie, now what?
motion fails.
You want me to call Terrence?
No, that's it. We'll be discussing every $300 request.
Yeah, I think that's why we get elected. I don't know,
Well,
maybe I'm crazy.
A
That's
little
okay.
micromanaging, but,
All right.
Tim, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Tim.
You bet. Thank you.
See you on
Have
the
a good night.
20th. Remove all obstacles, please. We don't want David falling. He might not be as quick to put his hands in front of his face as you were.
Believe me, I wouldn't. I wouldn't be as smooth as Tim was that night.
Thank you.
Good night.
All right, so we're on to special town meeting presentations. I think the last time we did this, Kevin, was a special town meeting, and the guy that wasn't here got stuck with all of them.
Was that you?
So that kind of leaves Terrence in line.
So on the annual, we have 1 through 12 that we need to decide who's going to. Actually, the first 2 are, well, you still got to move them. They're going to be consent.
Which ones, Kevin, in particular, do we have to put, just, so 1,
So 1 through 12 on the annual,
2,
and
1
then,
1 through
Is it
12
one
consecutively?
CPC,
yes, consecutively.
and 7 finance committee, and 9 CPC.
Yeah, we do those though. So on the annual, it's
Who does 13, 14, 15, 16?
Bill
Bylaw
Coleman.
committee?
Bill Coleman.
Bill Coleman will present those.
Okay, so, is it gonna be the citizen petition? We thought they were gonna withdraw that?
They didn't withdraw it before
Okay,
approval of the warrant. They could withdraw it from the floor, but they'll have to present it.
okay.
I will volunteer for the salary administration plan, the finance committee reserve fund.
Go slow.
Yeah.
6, 7,
Yeah, go by number, 6.
Okay, I don't want to do water and sewer. I've done it every year, and I want to get away from it.
You
so-
do so good at it.
Oh, yeah. So I'll do 5, 6, 7.
5, 6, 7, Mr. Gavin. Don't forget there's some special ones on the back.
Yeah, I'll be
So
prepared.
you want me to do the first 4 or 3? 3, 4?
Well, I assume you're doing the general budget. That's why,
Yeah, sure. Okay,
so that's when you should,
What are you doing? 1 through 4.
I don't have to, I can
So
do 1 and 2.
2 is going to be 1.
1 and 2 is gonna be 1?
Yeah, because it's going to be a consent.
consent.
So if you do 1 through 4,
would you like me to do 3 and 4, Chris?
It doesn't matter.
I'll do 3 and 4.
Okay, Jason can do 3 and 4. Tim, what would you like to do?
Oh, yeah, left.
Well, you can do 9, Conservation Committee.
Yeah, I'll take that one.
Tim. Terrence, we'll give Terrence the 2 sewer and water. How's that sound?
Okay, that's it
And,
for,
Declaration of Affordable Housing
I'll
Trust?
do the affordable housing since I'm sort of a member.
Okay, that's 12. On the back, Kevin, the special?
You want 1 or 2?
I'm doing 1 and 2, which is 1, and I'm doing 8. And on the back, I'll do,
so S1, S2, S3, S1 through 4.
Tim, you can do 3,
Take 3 again.
do 1 and 2.
And then the other one is
Four.
the
Jason
Jason.
will do
Jason can do
4.
4.
What else do we have on that side?
S9.
9 and 10 for both fire station.
Well, David, you and I should split those since we're on that committee.
You all right?
Doesn't matter which is which, we'll figure that out when we get there.
It would be nice if we knew.
Well, we'll decide amongst ourselves.
Okay.
I'll do 10.
Thank you.
I'll do 9, I guess.
Excellent.
All right.
That was easy.
Who's the moderator this year?
Dick Downey.
Downey.
Same as last year.
Same moderator as.
I just wanted to get Mr. Coleman to see if he was paying attention to my rambling.
Who had?
I have a question.
9 was Tim, right?
Okay, you may.
S10, which is, I just read through the special warrant, $100,000 to construct a new building for a fire engine. Where?
At the fire station. It's going to be it's basically an add-on to the current station, a temporary structure.
Is this take the place of having to build a new fire station?
No, it's a place to house
I'm
our,
being facetious, buddy.
as you recall, we got a very large grant from the federal government to help us get, it doesn't fit, so we need to have an add-on to the station. It prevents us from having to build a fire station.
It will be a structure, though, that will be permanent if we want to use it for any other purpose.
No,
It will not be.
no, it's an add-on, basically.
Semi-permanent.
Semi-permanent,
Semi.
yes.
As long as it's holding a fire truck on, and it is permanent, and when that fire truck is no longer there,
It could
that
potentially
temporary
be-
structure
it
could be
potentially
removed.
be repurposed. If
Yeah.
we-
I was wondering that.
Yeah, if we had a need,
We take it down, we could move it down to the DPW barn and use it there if we had to.
Well,
it
yeah.
can be reused, so there may be some.
And that was
There
my
may be
thought,
some
Chris,
resale,
was we do have
option
need
too.
for space, perhaps once the fire station is, if there is a new fire station built, if that could be used, say down the DPW or another.
I would be certain, if I had to guess, that when that time comes, if Aaron is still on board with the town of Maynard, that piece of equipment, which is what it is, certainly would be repurposed. Would be my opinion. That's just, knowing
Yeah.
Aaron and how he does things.
When you were asking
It would
about
make more
permanent,
sense.
I thought you meant, was it, brick and mortar, permanent structure?
No, I
and it's not.
understood that.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Nice fire
Thank you.
100 grand.
Okay, so we got your report, Kevin, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Kind of went into my report at the beginning, thanking the folks for the fire, and now we're to the board member reports. Kim?
I have nothing.
Mr. Gavin?
Yeah, first off, Kevin, you weren't here when we, when we went over in the correspondence, there was a letter from the DEP. And I was wondering if, they talked about a recycling grant and the availability of
Oh, yeah.
recycling. Is that something that we're qualified for, that we're applying for, or?
I don't think there's anything on there that we qualify for this round. It's been sent down to DPW.
Okay,
We have a login and some access. We have in the past received some grant money towards recycle bins and some new initiatives for, a lot of it is geared towards communities that are going to pay-as-you-throw. We've kind of exhausted a lot of.
Folks shifting off of transfer
Exactly.
stations
Transfer
and
station stuff, some enforcement relevant to that.
all right.
But since we've been a pay-as-you-throw community since the 80s, we were one of the first in the state. We've utilized a lot of those available.
Right now, there's really nothing
Yeah,
for us,
not really.
okay. This is just in preparation for the end of the fiscal year, and for Becky's reminder, I assume we've already started to send out notices to people who are having expiring terms on committees and whatever. Good. So that we don't have the annual, oh my God.
But I think those are slated for the first meeting in June, right, for appointments,
Okay.
appointments.
The last thing I wanted to bring up, which is, it's really kind of an important topic, but it was in the Beacon, the MMA article, magazine rather, of April's edition. Sort of a heads up headline article that was in there. And this is not reflective of my opinion on the issue or anything else, but rather just to get Maynard prepared for the future. The MMA is recommending that municipalities prepare for the marijuana law and the sale of marijuana. And as you know, Maynard voted 60-40 in favor of that. So, I think there has to be a community discussion on what we may want to do. But regardless, I'm going to read the important aspects of this that I think we need to at least be aware of and start the process. I spoke to Rick. Rick says the planning board has not approached him on anything. There's nothing right now on the table, and we don't want to be caught behind the 8 ball when things start happening because we haven't taken action. As you may know, the town of Stowe has on their town meeting warrant a moratorium, and other localities have already taken action. I think, Southborough, Westborough was
Westborough was
it?
the
That
first
actually
one.
has put a complete.
Westboro is the first in the state.
Yeah, so, anyway, what it says is
That's
the
just for recreational, you can't do that for
Correct,
medical.
yeah. What it says is the application process opens on April 1st, 2018, and at that point, if you don't have a bylaw or an ordinance in place or a moratorium, and you get notice from the state that there's an application for your community, you do not have a basis to say there's a conflict here with a local ordinance or bylaw. So far, 5 communities have approved moratoriums. And then it says, the law allows for the following 3 restrictions on commercial marijuana establishments. The first is prohibiting the operation of one or more types of commercial marijuana businesses, though possession and home growth are still permitted. Limiting the number of marijuana establishments to 20% of the number of liquor store permits in the community, and limiting the number of marijuana establishments to fewer than the number of registered medical marijuana facilities in the community. The point is that I think we need to start having the discussion about, do we want to address this, be prepared for when the things start happening. The other point is that the law is not clear, based on my research and on the article, that it says the towns may vote to restrict. So what Westboro did, or Southborough, whichever borough it was, and it looks like all communities that are taking action to protect themselves. It's not clear what a town vote is, whether that's a town meeting vote or a ballot vote. So the towns that are actually taking action are doing both, so that they're covering themselves. So I bring that up because if we do want to take action, and there's a vote coming up in September that we already have scheduled for a ballot, we could save money by adding that if we want to. It's a big discussion. It's not something we're going to solve at 9:15 at night, but it's a big discussion that the community needs to have the conversation of, and right now we have not had any type of discussion on it at all. And again, it's not reflective whatsoever of my opinion on the issue. It's just about preparing ourselves and getting ready.
I will add that the planner has already begun looking into this. Because he's been reaching out and he's working on putting something before the planning board to address this, knowing that this is impending.
Yeah, when I spoke to Rick about it, he told me he has heard nothing, so I figured that, there had been no communication at
The fact that
all.
they're in the same hallway doesn't mean anything. But
Both the town planner, the police chief, and I have been to several statewide discussions on it. We're fully aware of it, and to your point, I mean, we even have copies of the Westboro ballot and town meeting article. But aside from all that, we know what it means, but we haven't had a discussion from a policy standpoint.
Right.
What it is that we want to do, if
That's my
anything,
point.
which is your point. So that's the more difficult part. We know what needs to go in place if the discussion is, X versus Y.
Yeah, we need, my point is, we need to have the
We're running out
policy
of time.
discussion and see what Maynard wants to do from, a policy standpoint.
Did they act and approve that place? Or is that something that's coming up for them?
Yeah, they're good with it.
Yeah, so, Last National Wine, the A-frame building?
Yeah,
That's gonna be a growth center and dispensary.
is that right?
Yeah.
I knew that
Medical.
there had been some talk.
Medical, but
Right-
that was.
Right next door to the new,
Yeah.
What do you mean?
perfect.
And across, diagonal to Wendy's.
They're gonna populate that.
Across from Wendy's.
That's just what you need. So we found that out, right? Kevin might have known earlier, but we
It changed?
did a tour of the brewery with the Magic folks.
They love
And
it.
that's what they're putting there. Originally, the guy that,
Oh, the net.
one of the guys that was
That's
trying to
accurate.
buy the property said
The seller.
the buyer that bought it was gonna make it into a, showroom, a plumbing supply showroom.
Which isn't true.
And no, like, we went at the Magic Tour of the Mill the other day, like, two of the people from Acton said, oh, no, that's not gonna be a plumbing showroom. It's gonna be a, you know, a marijuana dispensary and growing center.
Concord and tell them to
Yeah,
test.
yeah.
Huh?
The health department is.
Yes, it's still it's medical prescription only, it's, you know, it's,
Yeah,
That's
all,
what's
all
coming.
of those places, they build, nobody wants to get into transportation because it's another animal, and all of the ones that have been approved are on-site cultivation and on-site sale for medical marijuana. Now, they've only issued, there's only 7 full licenses that have been issued out of
I believe
180
the only one open
applications.
right now is in Brockton, in Massachusetts, right?
Yeah.
Isn't there one in Lawrence?
There's a bunch that are kind of preliminary approval but haven't received full licenses. But they're only going to approve 75 statewide, even
Yeah.
at the fullest extent.
Yeah.
Which means that the state just made $9 million for something they knew that was never going to happen in the first place.
Yeah.
The Brockton site is.
$50,000 to just apply. And
Yep.
we got 180 with like 170 in queue.
I guess, you know, to David's point, what's
William Dillon got his
What's
3.
the,
That's true.
what is the discussion? You know, what do you think the discussion is? Do you have a policy? Do you have a plan? Or, I mean, talking about, I'm not asking you if you do, but
Right. I
What's-
think the
how
discussion
does
is.
that-
Discussion is, do we want
We
to put a
wanna
moratorium?
restrict-
Do we
yeah.
want to restrict it? Do we want to have do we have no problem at all moving forward and just letting the law go where it goes? You know, or do we want to, you know, take steps to, you know,
I think that's a town decision.
well, that's why it eventually has to go to a vote based on the law. And to have any type of, and that's why, yes, it is a town discussion, but it's also a board discussion relative to what do we bring to the town?
No, I realize that.
The ones that are issued right now for medical are issued by the Department of Public Health, so DPH issues them. Any community that has not provided a letter of, you know, basically, not necessarily support, but isn't going to, you know, basically a neutral, no opposition, those are the ones that they've approved. Any community that is opposed to it, they're not even gonna happen. And that's not even through any zoning changes or anything like that. That's just simply from an application standpoint. So Acton has given a letter of no opposition. Plymouth has for 2 sites. So those are the ones that are moving forward. Ultimately, when it comes to the recreational standpoint, it's going to be even that much more limited because the first ones that will get any licenses are going to be those that are considered experienced operators, which will be the medical facilities first, and they'll get the recreational licenses. But
it's a, you know, it's a serious discussion, and it's something that we don't want to get caught with the proverbial, you know, pants down and suddenly be in a position that we may not want to be in it as a town, and maybe it's a position that we do want to be in as a town, but we need to know, I think, where we want to be.
Yeah.
So, and according to, and I'm just educating myself, and according to the article, the headline is "Locals Advised to Act Now."
it's true.
So,
Yeah, right now it's under the treasurer's office. That may change as well, but they'll be
Right.
similar to an ABCC. They'll be forming the Cannabis Control Commission. the CCC.
as everything, it's all
So-
politicized and everything else, and it's
Yeah.
just so
The
much going
Cannabis
on.
Control Commission will have an executive director, and they'll regulate and license, and,
Yep.
but as you said, it's less than, at this point, it's like 11 months away before.
Yeah, I think it's prudent on our part to at least start the discussion.
You just did.
Yeah, I know.
One way.
One way,
Yeah. So,
without
anything
taking a
else?
position whatsoever.
Anything else?
No.
Neutral, riding the top of the fence again, are you?
What's that?
I said you're riding right along the top of the fence, neutral. Jason?
Kevin, for a subsequent meeting, can you provide when the last time we increased trash stickers?
Yeah.
And also, in that time, since the last time we've increased it, what's been the increase in hauling and disposal fees?
Sure.
And then just a real quick aside, just walking around downtown, so we have a lot of meters out of order. And if we're gonna be, if we're gonna continue to try and fund things with that for downtown, we should be getting those working. That is it.
Before I forget, Kevin, we didn't mention next Tuesday. We received a letter from Dr. Girardi at the middle of last week, or the beginning of last week, requesting time on tonight's agenda, and without knowing what the presentation was going to be from the powder mill people, I didn't want to schedule that just because it would have taken up, we'd be here till midnight. So we suggested that we might be able to meet next Tuesday at 7 o'clock as a place to yet to be determined with us and the school committee, just kind of, reconnect with the communication, which we, obviously, between the two boards, we did a poor job in the last several months, despite the fact that we met several times. So they just want to sit and have an open meeting and have some audience participation, I'm sure, and discuss the budget and how we can, A, do a better job going forward, and B, how we can offer some help to the schools as we go along through their 2018 fiscal year. Is that about what your opinion is?
Correct. I think we're going to meet in the lower meeting room here, 101.
Think there's going to be enough room? It was suggested that we use the Fowler gym by some on the school committee.
Fowler Auditorium.
Auditorium, yeah. The building we have town
The
meeting.
library.
The library's too small. The library didn't hold the people that were there last Tuesday night, basically. There was people standing in the aisles and sitting on the floor and everything else. But, they suggested the auditorium, but they have that fair there, so they didn't think they could move the tables in 2 hours to get seats enough to.
Well, our library is full, so that's not an option,
How about the
so.
high school auditorium?
I think we need an area that's got enough space that we can sit some people. I don't think that this room downstairs will, might be wrong, but to Vic's point, if we don't have enough room, we're gonna be in trouble.
Yeah, I don't really fully understand the intent of the meeting, but, okay. I don't know what.
To tell us that there's another $265,000.
I don't know what the public interest level is either. I mean, this space we have to use for planning board because we're in the mid-cycle of a recorded, advertised, and televised hearing. So we normally we would take priority and take this room, but I don't think it's prudent with an ongoing hearing.
Whatever you decide is fine. I just don't want to.
It sounds like you're hearing some things that maybe there'd be there's enough interest that's going to be more than a few guests. And if that's the case, maybe we have to look at the high school auditorium, or I don't know. Nobody from the
I would think that
nobody from the schools reached out.
Dr.
to me
Girardi
to
and Dawn should have a better idea of what they
say
expect
what
for participation, since they requested the time.
We reached out to, our first was to try the library, and they're booked, so there's no space over there. This room's taken in the lower meeting.
How about the room we use for Andrew's?
But maybe we have to do it at the school.
Well, that's.
As soon as we know, just let us know.
You're not gonna get them this week, are you?
Who?
School vacation?
Yeah.
Is he around?
Who's over there. I don't know.
Well, on Thursday night, when I left their meeting, that was the only
Somebody's
question.
gonna be there,
Colleen Moore was, she was gonna try and coordinate that somehow for them or with them.
Colleen, I'll reach out to Colleen tomorrow and Bob, but she's got to be available to post an agenda. So somebody's from the school department's got to post an agenda by Friday.
I mean, we have to post one as well.
Yeah, but we're here.
I know. Thank you.
They're on vacation.
I was getting worried. So.
Yeah, and I assume the agenda item is just discussion on FY18 budget.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know that it has to be that specific, just the budget. I think it's a discussion about,
I have to go back to the
discussion, because Terrence and I sat with just two of them one day and talked about kicked some things around, and we talked about, the process and how it's an annual, year-long process. I think it's just, where do we go heading into the year, and to David's point earlier, just in this room was, we had a budget subcommittee that dealt with these things. We should, revive that and provide, some communication back and forth between the two boards, so we don't end up in the same situation again next year where there's questions that remain unanswered. They were very complimentary of, the process that we used this year, and I think we feel the same way, because we did communicate more than we ever had before, so it's just now, sit and talk about it in a group setting.
Agreed.
Motion to adjourn?
Anyone
Second.
else? All in favor? Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, Mike.